Welcome to this Sunday gathering. Welcome to each of you who hold our circle this morning, whether you do that regularly, whether this is your first time here among us in this circle, or whether you're back after a while. We welcome you. We're all an important part of this community, and we work to make it a safer place for all of us and a welcoming place for each of us as we make our way and find our place in the circle. We come this morning, as we do every morning, with hearts full and minds full. And it's great to take a moment to simply breathe in and out and be present in a time that can be a number of things for us. If we're full of agitation and concern, might it be a time of peace and calm and measured responses? If it's a time of sadness and grief for us, then may this time be full of hope for the strength of love, the power of community, and the desire of peace. If we come here with lives overflowing, with joy, with excitement, then may this time be full of sharing, full of light and expressing that sacredness and connection with us in only the way that you can. So here we are in this circle once again, and we gather on this day that honors National Indigenous Peoples Day. And we gather in the spirit of reconciliation and hope, of relationship as we work together and build relationships, Indigenous and non-Indigenous alike. As we get going this morning, we're going to share a few announcements of the things going on in the life and the work of our community. And as we move from all the work of getting here and sharing the life and the work and the busyness of the community, may we now focus on being here as we focus ourselves with song. Let's sing together. We invite this morning Elsie Paul, someone familiar to many of us here at Southminster Steinhauer, to offer us some gratitude and some honoring of our land that we meet on this morning. Elsie, we appreciate your time and for being with us this morning.
Holy. Thank you so much. I never know what I'm doing from day to day, you know. I didn't know that was going to be on the screen. But thank you for the tobacco. That is the protocol in the First Nations way, you know. So he even did it with his left hand, which he gave from the heart, because we're taught to give with our left hand. Because whatever we say and do, we do it with our left, because our heart is situated on the left-hand side of our body. But to welcome you onto the land, I may not say it exactly the way everybody's written, but that's okay. All I learned when I recovered from when I started connecting to my Métis and Indigenous culture, that this land was always honored and respected, you know, so therefore I had to relearn that in my recovery. So I just want to welcome each and every one of you to the people of the land, for the Cree, the Métis, the Suru, the Dene, and everybody else that was involved here in our plants and animals and Mother Earth. We welcome each and every one of you. Let's have a really good time today, and I'm very grateful to United Church, because that's the first ones that taught me about who God was, because I didn't know anything about the Creator, you know, till later on in my life. And I'm very grateful to United Church. But now I also connect to my First Nation spirituality. And as the elder said, one mind, one spirit. It's just, we just have different terminologies for it, but it's the one spirit, and I'm very grateful for that. So just thank you for spending this time with us, getting to know one another, developing that relationship. We're all treaty people on Treaty 6 land. Thank you so much. Aye. Okay, Marcy, they say it in our other language. Okay.
This morning, we'll light 4 of them. And we'll light one for each of the 4 directions. And I invite you to stand. And in this time of candle lighting, we'll face the 4 directions. First, we'll honor the east. So I invite everyone to turn toward the east. And hopefully you can still see a screen in which you can see your response. We honor the east, where the sun brings the freshness of a new day and a spirit of growth and newness. We receive the gifts of the east with gratitude. And now toward the south, toward the back of our room. We honor the south, where water flows, where life bursts forth and flourishes under the strength of the summer sun. We receive the gifts of the south with gratitude. We honor the west, where the sun sets on the earth's horizon, calling us to the quiet curve of evening, the place and time of rest. We receive the gifts of the west with gratitude. We honor the north, where the strong winds bind us in community, where we gather in the strength of wisdom and the experience of our elders. We receive the gifts of the north with gratitude. Together we honor the wisdom and tradition of the 4 directions. We come to meet in the center. May our hearts be open. Gathering, honoring, remembering where we meet. The people's land from long before, relationships to restore, enriching and reconciling ways we live and dream for. During our time for all ages, we welcome anyone to come to the carpet for a story. You can also stay in your chair and enjoy a story as well. Wherever you'd like, please be invited to this time. Okay, story time. It's called Love the World. I picked this book for today because I think maybe when we get to the end of this, you're going to kind of know why I picked it. You're kind of going to get the point, and I'll ask you some questions at the end. Do you know this guy, Todd Parr? All his books kind of look like this? Yeah. He's got a bazillion of them, but they're all good. They're all good. This one's called Love the World. Love the world. Love your face. Love your space. Even if it's treehouse, you can love it. Love your nose. Love your toes. Love your eyes. Love your size. Love your walk. Love your talk. Love giving a hand. What does giving a hand mean? Yeah, you could wash stuff, you could help people, you could give things to people that need it. Yep, that's right. Love giving a hand. Love taking a stand. Well, taking a stand is also one of those phrases that can mean when you really stand up for someone. When maybe they're having trouble, or maybe they need some help, and you stand up for them. You are there to help them, and you make sure that they're not alone. Love yourself. Love the world. Love the bees. Love the trees. Love your ears. Do you love your ears? Love your tears. Love your hair. Love your flair. Ooh, you all have some flair, some style. Love being kind. Look, they took this puppy home from the animal shelter. That's not the only way to be kind, but it's a nice way to be kind. Love using your mind. She's got a box that says, build a robot. Love making art. Love sharing your heart. Aww. Love yourself. Love the world. Love your giggle. Love your wiggle. Love your grin and love your skin. Love the land. Love the sea. Love the earth. Love you and me. Love yourself. Love the world. Oh, and he wrote more words on this page than all the other ones. You will meet many people and go to many places. You can always find something to love about yourself. You can always find something to love about everyone. Love yourself and love the world. The end. Love Todd. He ends every book that way. Love Todd. Oh, it's just a really kind of cute book, which reminds us to keep loving ourselves and other people and the world and everything in it. But at the end, I love that he says, you can always find something to love about yourself, and you can always find something to love about others. It's so true. We have to look for the things we can love. Because you know what? It's easy to get messages when we are on the computer or when we are on the TV. It's easy to get messages of all the things we can dislike and hate. But Todd reminds us that we can always find something we can love about other people and love about the world. And it's important to keep our minds and our hearts and our ears, all of it, looking for love. Things we can love. People we can love. So, thanks for sharing this book with me. You're invited to go back to your seats, go to the activity table, or whatever you would. These are some words that were written in the mid part of the 1st century AD. They were written to a community of people who were looking for ways that they could be welcoming, open Christian community. Not even knowing yet that they were a Christian community. They were a Jewish community, knowing that they'd heard teachings of this man in the Galilean area named Jesus of Nazareth. And so as this community sorts itself out and tries to figure how to be community with one another, they are given some advice in letters to this community in Galatia, and this is from the 3rd chapter of that letter. When we were young, we were carefully surrounded and protected by our religious tradition to keep everything sorted out. Our religious law was like those Greek tutors who escort children to school and protect them from danger or distraction, making sure the children will really get to the place that they set out for. But now, in adulthood, in growing maturity, we must claim more responsibility for ourselves. Are we not able now to cross the street alone? We now claim our life and faith for ourselves. And within that faith, there can no longer be any division into Jew and non-Jew, slave and free, male and female. We are all one. We are all equal. In this letter of encouragement toward unity and community, may we find wisdom for our living. So I'll just talk a little bit more about that letter preserved in the Christian writings. It seems that we're hearing that healthy spiritual living is accomplished only when we can move beyond old boundaries that have been set by people that we may or may not have even known. This writer starts out talking about a very simple illustration about crossing the street. Many of us were told when we were small, hold hands when crossing the street. Or don't cross the street unless your older brother or sister is with you. Or you come and find me if you want to cross the street. Something along those lines. And interestingly enough, it's not that we were ever told, okay, now, most of us anyway, are not told, okay, now, all those rules I set for you, ignore them because you're old enough. We simply grow and mature and evolve from one set of rules into others. So we can recognize in our maturity the artificial nature of certain boundaries. Male and female, Jew and non-Jew, and we could extrapolate that. Light skin, dark skin, indigenous, non-indigenous, gay, straight, cis, transgender, conservative, liberal, rich, poor. The message is all the same. From the letter writer, we are all one. That is essential teaching of any enduring spiritual tradition. We are one. And we need to hear it again and again, and in ever different ways. Imagine if we begin to live with eyes and hearts that are always seeking the sacredness in each and every person, looking for the essence of love and light, the human desires that unite us all, to be free, to be fed, to love and be loved. Imagine if we did all follow the simple instructions in Todd Parr's book, to love yourself and love the world. Is that not part of the greatest commandments of our own Christian tradition? You can always find something to love about yourself, and you can always find something to love in everyone. And so we have to imagine that when we're most annoyed, most apt to close ourselves off, most tempted to cross the street to avoid our fears or our lack of understanding, imagine if we could begin training our minds and hearts to ask other questions. Where can I see light and love in this other person? Or maybe it's a question like this. In our cosmic and universal story of evolution, of adaptation, of chemical and physical wonders, can I remember that we're all made of the same substance, all of us, and recognize we're all the same? Or it might be a question like this. In the voices and teachings of those different from me, what can I learn so that we can teach each other the best of our wisdom and know that we are together in our quest for a better world and a good way of being with each other? Our daily challenge is always, can we be as creative in seeking the light and sacredness in each other as we are at pointing out our differences? And we need imaginations to do that, to guide us toward how we can turn to those questions in our interactions, how we can make our way to places that pull us out of our comfortable bubbles and towards an experience of coming eye to eye, face to face, with a new expression of sacredness that we haven't had before. How might we see each other, really see each other, and not just the image or the understanding or the stereotype or the script that's been given to us from people we may or may not even know in our past? It's time as adults for us to write our own script, to believe what the boundaries are that are artificial, and to move beyond them. In South Africa, there's an indigenous community, probably many indigenous communities, that we learn from their culture and tradition in the Zulu language. The tradition goes like this. When one person would approach another, they will pause and face each other, look directly into the eyes of another for a few moments, and say in the Zulu language, "Sawubona." And the other one replies to the greeting, "Yebo, sawubona." And then they continue on their way. One of them, the first, says, "Sawubona, we see you." And they connect through their eyes, and the other replies, "Yes, we see you." I find that very meaningful and instructional when, in our own culture, the most common greeting is, "Hi, how you doing?" And we don't even care about the answer. It's simply a way to say, "Hey, I'm moving, I'm on my way." When we connect with our deepest selves, our common humanity, when we are attentive to what we all share and are present to that connection, the joy, the acceptance, the compassion, the understanding, the cooperation, love, we are saying, until you see me, I don't exist. Until I see you, you don't exist. When we see each other, we bring each other into existence and into the community of we. Those African tribes, they don't say, "I see you." They say, "We see you." We are brought into not only existence, but into community when we stop long enough to really see each other. at the risk of being far too personal, I want to invite us to turn to someone near to us, to look into their eyes, and greet one another, acknowledging that we exist, that we are important, that we are seen. I invite you to say to each other, Sawubona, and to reply, Yebo, Sawubona. Let's see each other. It's a great honor to have with us today Patricia Makokis, who will speak to us later in introducing the documentary after our gathering, but to invite her now to speak a few words to us, and we bring greetings and we welcome you, Pat. Thank you very much. Thank you. Yes.
Good morning. It's a real honor to be here. As was said, my name is Pat Makokis, and I live at Saddle Lake Cree Nation. We're going to show treaty talks, sharing the river of life after the service. And I understand that some of you may not be here, so I was asked if I would speak a little bit about it, and it's rather ironic that Chris should talk about what I heard when I came in was, we are all one. So many years ago, probably 25, I went back to school. I went and I did a doctor's degree. A doctor's degree in education because I was a school principal. And in the message, we are all one, and that we need to see each other, what I found out was we were not seeing each other. We, as the indigenous peoples to this land, we were not in the history books. So as that school principal, and I was taking a look at why First Nation students were dropping out of provincial high schools, and I started to explore that from an academic perspective. Why was it that students weren't finishing high school? And I have a son and a daughter, and I knew that my children were very smart. I believe, my husband and I, as all parents do, believe that we do everything we can to help our children. And so in exploring that, what I found out was academically, Indigenous people weren't in the history books. We were all taught a colonial history that depicted Indigenous people as heathens and savages and inferior to others. And so that in coming to do that work of, in a kind, gentle way of trying to explore the history, I had to come to terms myself with the colonial history and look at my own family and look at our genogram and what had happened in this country and what had happened to my family. And in exploring that, it took me to the colonial history, but it then took me to a place of trying to understand the history, but also understand the strengths of Indigenous people, that we have many, many beautiful ceremonies, that we were a very inclusive community, that I noticed you have the pride flag, that we had two-spirited community members and we never shunned them. We would have probably had transgendered community and they were always welcome. So why was it that in this colonial history we were struggling, and we continue to struggle? Because as I looked at that history, I also very clearly recognized historic trauma and the intergenerational impacts of that. And as my white family members and my brown and red and black family members, I talk about red, yellow, black, and white family members. I'm trying very hard to get away from this idea of race, because race is a social construction that it puts primarily white family members up here and the rest of us down here as this sort of layered structure. And in our teachings, what I found is that in those cultural teachings, we are all related. And as the minister said, we are all one. So the making of Treaty Talks, Sharing the River of Life, brought together my mentors who are younger than me, Dr. Diana and the late Dr. Vincent Steinhauer. Because for many years, my husband and our two children have participated in our own ceremonies. In fact, my son-in-law is sundancing, and they come out of that Sundance today. And in that process, it became really important when we made this film that we wanted to focus on treaties, because if we go back far enough and you start to explore your history as well, probably you or your ancestors were fleeing oppression in Europe and coming to a place where you would hope that they were going to have a better world. And in doing that, what I am told is Indigenous people helped our white family members. They knew that they were going to come, and it was our job to help. And in that process, somehow or other, our history got misconstrued and we became other. And we didn't get to know each other the way the Creator, I would suggest, and our ancestors wanted us to be, as being the brothers and sisters that we are, as the red and yellow, black and white families. So in making Treaty Talk, Sharing the River of Life, at the time, I was still working at the Faculty of Extension, teaching full-time, so I need to acknowledge my faculty, and I need to acknowledge the City of Edmonton and the Mennonite Church of Canada, and our dear friend, Esther Johnson, who we cobbled these monies together to make this film. And in making the film, we didn't want to focus on a sense of reconciliation, because I think, based on what we've experienced, those terms can come and go as governments change. We wanted to focus on helping everybody to understand treaties, so that when your ancestors came and our ancestors welcomed them, we agreed to certain things. We agreed that we would continue to be able to live our own lives respectfully and by each other. And to do that with kindness and honesty and sharing and strength and determination through our prayers. And that would be that, if you look at the wampum belt, that would be the boat and the canoe. And that in that, we could always live our lives together and share. And so that's why Treaty Talk Sharing the River of Life is based on the treaties. Oh, Murray is here. My friend Murray. And his wife, Madeline. That's why it's based on the treaties. It's based on the treaties because that grounds us together in this relationship, all of us, to the land. And that we are all responsible for looking after the land, our mother. We only have one mother, Mother Earth. And if we don't look after her as being all of us related, I'm concerned for our future. You know, and how we come to understand that is through our ceremonies when we don't drink or eat for 4 days and 4 nights. So we don't drink and we have no water. And when you don't have the gift of water, you can do without food, but water is something else. We are called to do the work together. And so in making the film, that was why we made it, to focus on the treaties. And then we went to look for little pots of money again to make sure that we would have a website and that it could be free. And anybody could go to the website and access it, because we need all of our relatives to understand this. And so it's on the website, it's free, anybody can watch it. We just finished a 350-kilometer walk. We walked from Edmonton to Calgary. And as we walked and talked, we did the same thing. We were blessed to be able to sleep in churches. The churches brought their communities in. The walk was funded by the Health Sciences Association of Alberta, HSAA Union. And as our sponsor, their members came in too. So every evening after we would walk, we would show the film, and then we would do a talking circle. And we would talk about us, all of us, not knowing our own history. And I remember this older gentleman in one of the communities, he said, I'm here to unlearn. I'm here to unlearn and relearn. I'm here to unlearn what I was taught as a young boy, what I was taught as a man, what I was taught most recently. I need to unlearn that. And so I'm here, I'm walking, and I'm coming to these circles to relearn. And I have to believe in my heart that all of us want a better quality of life. I have a grandchild, one grandchild, and I fear every day for him, because if you watch the film, he's this little guy, he's just turned 5, he's got braids, and he's a beautiful little spirit. And I think I would, for my life, fight for him if anybody tried to take him away from me, and to cut his hair, and to remove him. And that's what happened in the history of this country. And so now we are all left to try to repair that history and to do it in a gentle, kind, loving way. And I think we do that by us coming to church and to other spaces and getting to know each other. And so I thank the United Church. I thank Ruth for reaching out and asking if we would show the film and if we could have a conversation. And when we do this work, I always invite my white family to come with me. But I'll have to say, my white family members who are in the film, they're out walking right now. In our area, there's a horse ride and a walk going on, and it's about bringing people in. And so Tanya, who's in the film, is in that walk. And other folks, it's summer, as you know, so everybody's away. So Dr. Diana Steinhauer will be here later, and so we're just the two of us. But thank you for inviting us.
a thank you for all of us who give in many different ways to the health and the life of this community. For those who reach out, for those who reach in, for those who do small tasks and large ones, for those who contribute, that can keep these doors open and these lights on. For those, I want to invite Elsie Paul back here to offer us a closing prayer. As we go our way this week, might we offer words shared with Elsie in our time together.
I feel really honored to be asked to do this. Never in a day did I ever think I would ever be able to do this, but I had to do a lot of recovery in 42 years. And I want to thank Dr. Makukis for her talk, because my mother is from the same reserve, but she lost her status when she married my dad. And so that's why I didn't know anything about my culture. But in 42 years, I've connected to my Métis culture and Indigenous culture. And that's how come I wear this. I acknowledge both of my cultures. And so therefore, I'm going to say my prayer in my drum song, because my grandchildren were all in child welfare. And so I was already in recovery. I became a social worker. So I thought, no, they're not going to raise my grandchildren. So I applied custody for them. 2 of them I got right away, but the other 2 I didn't. And that's that little girl that got me started singing on my drum, because she was a daddy's girl, and she came for a visit. You know how they integrate them back into the family? That was one of the things. And she was just crying. Her dad wanted to go to the store. And says, well, stay here with Grandma. It's okay, I'll be back, And she just screamed and screamed. And so anyway, stay here, her dad said. So she finally just kind of calmed down, but she was still crying. And I had been given 2 drums, and I never used them. They were always on my wall, because I knew there was a protocol. I didn't know how to sing on my drum, But when he was gone, she was still crying, so I was trying to calm her down. So I finally took one of the drums and I started singing on it, and she just quit crying right away. Later on, I learned that it's the heartbeat of our mother that stopped her from crying, And so I didn't know how to sing, but all of a sudden she jumped off the couch and she went running. And she come back, and they had a raccoon hat that she put it on me with the tail in front here, but I kept on singing, So anyway, but I didn't know these songs. After, when I got custody of all my grandchildren out of child welfare, I started singing. And I would sing and sing, I didn't know how. And finally, they would be round dancing, because I was always taking them to different events, So the songs will come to you, I learned from the elder. And this is one of my drum songs that I'm going to say in my language. And I speak my Cree language. I'm slowly starting to forget, because I have nobody to speak Cree to. But I told the Creator, I said, I'll speak to you in Cree so I don't have to forget my language, And this is one of my drum songs. And I'll say it in English when I'm finished. So I'll just say it now. And I'm very grateful that this came to me. Ai hai no tawin am staikin naskum nano manoskag iskag minap matsunote e wawakutuinote. Ai hai into asam sinanagote no simnanak minuakumagananak nigani kawitaksunske wan mutse makinaskum nan. Mina no kum nanak wesi ipex namagoyaka kiogi goyote. Nemusum nanak mina wesi ginagatim goyakik. Ututem win minutkin naskum nan. Bewi teo nana no tawinan kwesen go iktabahtunan kwesen go ipikskwadtunan kwesen go yatuskanan kahkiogi wayotkin naskum nan no tawinan yukse hai. Thank you for today. Thank you for the land. We thank you for kinships. We thank you for our children, our grandchildren, and our future generation, Creator. We thank you for grandmothers and grandfathers. We thank you for friendships. be with us today to look at each other in a good way and to speak together in a good way, and that we're going to be together in a good way. We just thank you for everything. Okay.
Amen. Thank you.